Hey, Made in America listeners. Whether this is your first show or you've been with us for 5 years, thank you so much for joining us. Please spread the word about what we're doing and the great things that are happening in manufacturing with somebody you know. Hey, welcome to another episode of the Made in America podcast. Today I'm on with Chris deGruchy, the principal and general manager of Rite Metal. Chris, thanks for coming on today.
Hey, thanks for having me, Ari.
Listen, Chris, it's my pleasure. Looking forward to getting to all the stuff here we got to talk about, getting yourself into buying into a manufacturing business, the growth you've had, your deep engagement in the industry, what you've done with workforce and how you've managed that, how you think about the importance of small manufacturers in the entire community in the United States. But before we get to that, it is the Made in America podcast. So we start off with the same two questions, Chris. What do you make and why do you make it?
Okay. What we make here at Rite Metal, we are a foundry that produces aluminum castings using the sand casting process. And
oh, there you go.
yeah,
Why do you do it?
We're in over a dozen different industries. It's 1,300 different parts from ounces to 250 pounds.
And what is it that drives you, Chris? Like why do you do it? Where does your passion come from to drive this business forward?
Well, getting into it, I love manufacturing, love working with people and creating a team and stuff. And that's, that was the basis of my, career in the beginning. And so taking it here and working with these guys and having them really be a part of the company in understanding what they're making, who we're making it for, and stuff like that, and taking ownership themselves is really very fulfilling to see it all come into fruition, and the guys being happy, about coming to work and just enjoying what they're doing because they understand, what's going on, and it's a wonderful feeling.
That is a good feeling. So, I think you've got, an interesting journey into the manufacturing world and the manufacturing business. You decided that you wanted to get your way in. I think you were growing mushrooms before this. Is that right?
Right. Yes. Yeah. Before here, I helped a national company start up a mushroom growing facility in the county, and that's really during that same time I was going for my MBA at night, and so it put together the learning of going to school and the on the job learning of pulling together and buying little farms and creating a farming division on mushrooms, which I knew nothing about mushrooms before. um, but it's a widget, and it's something that you make. It's just different process. And so after I guess about 7-8 years there at the company, and bringing it up to speed, and I graduated with my MBA, and then that's when I decided, I'm going to go out and look to do something on my own.
And what was it that drove you to, and when you wanted to go out on your own? I know you had hired a business broker, and you told that broker, "Hey, I want to get into manufacturing." What drove that? With no previous experience, why manufacturing?
Well, my career, actually, my undergraduate's in accounting and stuff, and but my first job while I was going for my undergraduate was with a manufacturing company, local one. And in there, my position was working, even though I was in accounting, I was working out in the shop floor with engineering and the production people in creating these products. And I just, in the accounting department, you're working all with numbers, but when you're out on the floor and you're actually seeing this happening, it's like, oh yeah, this is really interesting. And so, my journey from there, that was medical products, and then I went on to battery manufacturing, and same thing. What the things that were like there was working with people in creating a product. That was it. And that really intrigued me. And then to be able to bring it home on the business end to see, oh yeah, we're making money on this product or we're not making money. And how do we make it more efficient? And, that kind of stuff. So just building upon it in my career. Of
Is it
course, that
is it sort of like doing a puzzle? I mean, so I'm hearing, sort of feeling that thread pulling out of, hey, we're trying to make something. We have an opportunity to create something physical we could see, touch, and feel. And then how do we like tweak the process to make it better? You throw in, as you mentioned, the sort of financial aspect, which is, are we making money on this? How can we tweak it to make more? How can we improve it? It sort of has this feeling of like a puzzle. Is that how you think about it?
yeah, it's interesting. I never so you just said that. It's like, yeah, it is like a puzzle. Putting these pieces together and seeing what's going to fit and what's going to work best. Yeah, yes. So but that getting into manufacturing again, it's working with people and being able to create product and be able to then you're running a business from this and making money.
Making money. Yeah, there it is. Capitalism never dies. I love it.
That's right.
So let me ask you something. I was looking for different stories to pull up for the audience, and I think we haven't talked to too many folks who've engaged with a business broker to go find a business. And I mean, that to me is, we referenced sort of capitalism earlier. To me, that's kind of like really an essence of capitalism, right? You got somebody who wants to own a business and say, hey, let me go. I can either try and figure out how to start from scratch or go find one to buy. You obviously opted to go find one to buy. What was that process like in terms of engaging someone to help you sort of shop for a business? How did that work for you? Can you kind of explain the audience that process and how it worked?
Well, yeah, it was a interesting journey going through that, but basically getting connected with business brokers, um, and the thing of importance here is to fully explain to the brokers, this is what I want, because I was general in saying, oh, yeah, I want to get into manufacturing, and it's like, oh, okay, and what? I said, anything, doesn't matter what it is, just get me. One thing I didn't tell them up front was that, I wanted something with a plant and people and stuff like that, because in the beginning, this one broker, he took me to a place. Oh, it's a pierogi manufacturer. I said, oh, okay, well, it's food. Okay, I was in mushrooms. Well, we go to this place and, well, it doesn't look like a plant. It's almost like a restaurant. We go in the back and, oh, here it is. Like what? That's the pierogi machine. And what? Wait a minute. What oh yeah, for $150,000 you can start making pierogi. Yeah, no, I don't think so.
Yeah, I'm
That's not.
looking to buy a business, not a machine.
Yes, exactly. So with engaging with these business brokers is to fully, explain to them this is what I'm looking for, and even to the amount of this is what I have to spend, of my own money, and um, yeah, and then I mean going from there, I did look at a variety of places before I was introduced to Castrite. Um, it let's see, it was about a year and a half of looking at different businesses. Um, and when I was brought here to Castrite, now this was, it has a plant and it's got people and stuff. And, um, so, the business broker introduced us, but then you're like, okay, then you need to know, well, okay, I got to do due diligence. I need to go through the books. Now you can pay for somebody to go do that. Fortunately, on my end, I mean, I went my undergraduate, my graduate degree. I had that experience in doing that, and so going through the due diligence, looking at the books, and coming up with, my analysis and pro formas on future earnings and stuff, because you need to be able, if you don't have all the money, you need to be able to sell the bank on, well, why should I loan you money? And that was
Bank wants to know how you're going to pay them back.
Yes, that was an interesting situation when things started to come into fruition. In that, they were looking at me like, "Well, yeah, what's your experience in Metalcast?" Nothing. What? Well, what are you doing? Well, I'm over at farming. I'm doing mushrooms. Well, how does that relate? So it was, to be able to sell the bank. Listen, I can do this.
How did you get the bank to agree to loan money to a mushroom farmer? Well, technically you weren't a
Yeah.
mushroom farmer, but for the story it sounds better. To get a
Right.
mushroom to
Right.
loan money to a mushroom farmer to buy and grow a casting business.
Right. Yes. It was tricky. There. Uh, if I could just go back a little bit into, when I first got introduced here, and I did my analysis and my due diligence, and I came to the owners and presented them with an offer, and they were like, "Are you kidding me? Are you crazy? This thing's worth more than that. Blah blah blah. Get out of here. You don't know what you're talking about." And so I was like, "Okay, well, just so you know, it's there, and you got my number, and you can call me back ever, if you ever change your mind." Um, a year later, I get a phone call from them, from the owners. "Hey, well, I was just wondering, are you still looking for a business? Blah, blah, blah." And I still was, at that point, I still was. And um, so they had this idea of saying, "Well, we're thinking here that why don't you come on over and work here for us and run our business here for a year. And then during that time, you can do some real due diligence and, um, really get to know what we're all about and yada, yada, yada." So, at that time I was like, well, you know, I built this mushroom thing to a good point to where I'm sitting pretty cush. Didn't need to go on a whim here, to the other side. So, but they did agree on, some terms. I mean, I gave them some flat out terms, and
So
they're
you
like,
you
"Oh,
did not you did not do you declined the 1 year try before you buy offer.
well, no, I didn't decline, but what I did was trying to feel them out by giving them terms up front, just saying, well, this is what I want, this. Little hesitation. Okay, sure, sure. Well, what I didn't realize at the time, one was 83 and the other one was 73.
Ah,
They were fair, so they're, they want to
time
make
not
a
really
deal.
on their side.
Yes. So anyway, so when they started agreeing to that, I was like, okay, I'll draw up a contract with everything that I'm looking for, and then we'll go ahead and do that. So I did that, had my attorney look at it, came over, and you know, they were like, okay, ready to go. So that was for a year. And during that year, then I was able to run the business and understand the business and um, people and customers and really understand better the financials and stuff like that. So, um, crazy enough, though, during that year, I got to know this. And at the end, at like 10th month, I came back to him and I said, okay, you know what? That was a great idea. Coming in here and understanding this business, you're absolutely right. However, because now I know the business, here's my offer now. And it's actually less than what I told you before.
No.
Oh, yeah. The guys were like living. They're like, are you great? I was like, I don't know what to tell you. But so why I wanted to go back and start this thing is because you asked the question about selling it to the bank and stuff. So one thing this bank wants to know, I mean, one thing you got the money, but you have to understand that business. I mean, that was a key thing for the bank to be able to see. Oh, well, at least you worked there, and there wasn't anything on the financial statements that I presented I could answer right away. I didn't have to be like, oh, I'll get back to you. I knew it inside and out. So we going back to the story here, the owners are like, oh, you're crazy. I said, well, I don't know what to tell you, but I have 45 days left. I have headhunters that are calling me, wanting to give me job offers and stuff like that. So I'm going to start looking. And well, during that time also, you see, no one here at this company, other than the two owners and the general manager that I was learning from, which happened to be a relative, they're the only three that knew I was there working to buy the company. No other
Mm.
employee, no one knew what I was doing, not even the sales manager. So at that last, 45 days, I, took it upon, I started talking with the sales manager and I told him about what I was doing. And he looked at me, he's like, you gotta be kidding me. You know, and he said, you know what? Don't do anything. Let me talk to these guys. Now he had a relationship because he was here working for him for 15 years, 20 years.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
he had
Yeah.
a good working relationship with these guys. These guys didn't know me from, other than the year or whatever that I
Right.
was,
Right. Right.
right? So um so he said, let me go talk with him. And this is how, so we worked together on the conversation, how, what he was going to do in approaching these guys initially. But it it turned them around, I think, because they trusted this guy,
Mm-hmm.
sales guy. And then we started getting, back into talks. So then, I wasn't leaving, and we extended on the contract, and okay, this is what we're going to do. And we already, within that time, we agreed on price, which was down at the numbers that I was talking about. Um, but then we started doing more due diligence as far as environmental studies and stuff like that, getting those things done. And then within the year, my partner, who was sales manager, and we
Mm-hmm.
both went in 50-50, which is quite uncommon. But we
Yep.
went in 50-50, and him handling the sales, myself handling operations, finance, and stuff like that. And so going back to your question on selling it to the bank, well, with them seeing that, oh, you have the sales manager, he knows the industry, finance and operations and manufacturing. Okay, we'll do
We'll
this.
do it.
Right.
So how was it sort of learning the casting business? Was it everything that you sort of had thought it was going to be kind of on the way in terms of did you get the joy from solving the puzzle that you talked about? Did you get the satisfaction of feeling like you're building something and working with people and meeting customer needs? Like you went into it with those expectations. Did the reality meet your expectations?
Um, not uh, not early on. No, it because early on it was looking at where are the issues, what do I need to focus my time on and stuff. And like for here, one of the first things I started doing was the safety program. There was no safety program. They were on the state insurance, paying out the nose. And so I actually, my wife came here and she worked with me and doing the administrative stuff on, pulling together the safety team and how we're going to run it and all that kind of stuff. So, so the satisfaction and stuff of all the pieces coming together really didn't, I didn't see that or was able to reflect on that until maybe 3, 4 years later. Until,
Grind for those? Was it a bit of a grind those first 3, 4 years, kind of getting it together,
yes,
learning the stuff you
yes,
didn't know, but probably learning from the school of hard knocks a couple of times.
yes, very much so.
But
And during
ultimately,
that
3, 4 years in, because now we're what, 13 years since you bought the business?
14.
14.
Yep.
So after 3, 4 years in, you kind of found your stride and then it started to kind of hit those expectations. Because I know you love it. I mean, I could
Yes.
feel it in you. You love it now. So you must have hit that stride 3, 4 years in.
Yes. I mean, even though I wasn't feeling the, the good results and stuff like that in the beginning, I love working on puzzles, you know, pulling these, where are the issues and trying to figure out what do we got to make better, and um, the other part of it too was building relationships with, like, there happened to be a foundrymen's association that's local here because there's other foundries in the area. So um, building relationships so that I can learn more about other people's trials and tribulations so that I can, kind of learn that ahead of the time, you know? Um, so
Finding some ways to shortcut the learning process instead of having to
yeah,
make all the mistakes, maybe learn from other people's mistakes or
yeah,
successes.
yes, or successes. Yes. A lot
Yep,
of
yep,
successful foundries in this area too. Uh,
yeah.
And yeah, so till 4 or 5 years, or 3, 4 years later, and which point my partner and I, started looking more at the um, growth, how are we going to grow this business?
Yeah.
And in here, in this industry, it was always, you'd have manufacturers representatives on the outside, or you may have an internal sales force that would knock on doors and try to gain a little bit of business, right? So, when you're doing that, you're maybe going in and getting, $50,000 here, 50 grand here. That's going to take forever. And so, what we changed our strategy to look at acquisitions, to look at other acquisitions of small foundries with owners that are in their 70s or 80s or whatever, that they're looking to get out and growing there because they may have 50 customers doing $500,000.
Hmm.
So now you're coming in, we pull together some contracts, make some payments or whatever, and now you have $500,000 that's taken,
Good clip.
a year or stuff like that. So
When you're executing that strategy, are you bringing the work back to Castrite because you're
yes,
not expanding to multiple facilities? You're
no,
just buying their customers, their products, and then doing it at your shop.
right, exactly. Bringing it here because there was, I mean, the facility has, a lot of capacity, and it's just you need to fill that capacity now, and we're still one shift Monday to Friday. Now, difference is back when we acquired it, we were at the company was at 25 people doing a third less volume. A th- I'm sorry, one third of the volume. So here we are, 14 years later, same head count, 3 times the volume, and we
I
still
mean,
have.
yeah, I'm not a mathematician, but that's going to be pretty good for business, I would say.
Oh, it is. It is. So bringing that stuff in here, bring the products, and when we were looking at, I mean, we acquired a company down in Florida, another one up in New England area, and some locally and stuff. But didn't you're out there searching for this, sort of like in the beginning when I was looking for a manufacturing company. Now we're
Yeah.
looking for older
Yeah.
companies, guys that want to get out.
That's
So
good. And when you find those companies, because I know you're because you're in Pennsylvania, when you're buying a company in New England or in Florida, you find it challenging to service their customers out of a geography that could be, up from 100 to 1,000 miles away. Is that still works out for you?
yeah, well, that's interesting you say that because our footprint here is the East Coast,
Hmm.
from Maine to Florida.
For customers.
For customers, right. Now, we do have some outliers we have some in Mexico, Canada, even the UK. Those are outliers, but primarily everything's on the East Coast. And one um, reason for that is that the shipping is FOB, shipping point here, cast right metal. So a person that's out in, California, they're going to pay a lot of money for freight to get out there.
Yeah, yeah.
So customers usually like to stay, in their region when they're pulling
Hmm.
in, heavy items like castings and stuff. So yeah, so we have tried to focus on the east coast of the U.S. Um, and it's been fruitful.
Let me ask you a couple questions about workforce. I mean, for people that know the business, the casting business, a lot of manufacturing in sort of 2024. We talk a lot on this podcast and around the country about like the new manufacturing, sort of lean, green, and clean. And a lot of manufacturing is sort of converted over to that more, you walk in, it's got the finished flooring, everything's taped out, it's generally really clean. The foundry process, and casting process, excuse me, it doesn't really lend itself to that level of cleanliness, right? It can be a hot, it can be a little bit dirty, a little bit dangerous place. And so when you think about sort of growing the business and, I'm sure you just like every other manufacturer in the United States, you're dealing with an aging workforce and you got to replace them. I'm just curious, how do you think about positioning Castrite to be an attractive place to work, for younger folks that you need to fill up the pipeline with?
Yes. Well, it's interesting you bring that up because, people are the backbone of this company. The employees are the backbone. And one thing that I've learned even from the beginning is, having employees engage in the company, understanding the company, and being somewhat transparent to them on this is what's going on, you know. Next is that they like their job. They like what they do. They like their place to work, and it's a safe place. And so the only thing I can rely on, because foundries have a dirty stigma, just that term, is word of mouth, really. And crazy it may seem, but just like in networking and all that's word of mouth, you're talking with people, you're letting, um, getting people in here to be able to say, hey, you know, I'm a business owner, but I care about you. And I care that this group, working together. I won't stand for someone coming in and having their own agenda and stuff like that. That doesn't work here. So it's creating that culture, and then out there, those guys are telling other guys, and pretty soon, I'm able to find them, find the right people to come in. Um, so you know, creating a place, like I said, even though a foundry's got a negative stigma to it, but creating a place that's an enjoyable place to work, safe place to work, um, and you enjoy your job. So
Yeah, listen, I've always found if you've got clear idea of what you got to do to be successful, you like the people that you work with, and you feel like you're in a supportive environment where you have opportunities to learn and grow, that's what people are really looking for.
yes, yes, exactly, exactly. And in this now, foundries they do have. I mean, foundries can, as far as the industries they serve, other foundries may have higher technical type positions, meaning if they're serving in the aerospace or the military or something like that, where there's really a lot of technical processes and stuff involved. Here, we are strictly commercial grade castings. So commercial grade castings, I don't need to have, a high end engineer and person to run, all kinds of crazy CNC machines and yada yada yada. I can take guys that have they're coming out of high school, or guys that have, maybe a couple year degree, or they're coming out of the military. I'm ex-military. I um, so, and that workforce is out there.
Hmm.
To me, that workforce has always, oh, that's, other companies, oh, that's the low end or something like that. That's, I don't, you know, people are the backbone. And I, just from my own experience, you give people yourself and your all, and they will give it back to you. And it has proven its way here. I have guys that have been here for 35 years. I have a guy here that he's 72. He's been here for 40 some years. And he's still, even at, he loves working here. And he can, I I can retire, but I'd really like to just come in from 6 to 12. That's okay. 5 days. It's like, you know what? If that's what you want to do, I know you do a good job, and I mean, to them, they're feeling, do a good job and stuff, so they have satisfaction.
Yeah, yeah.
And, so now I have, the younger guys back in the beginning. I have a few guys that are key people now that they started right off the street, didn't know anything, and now they are top level guys.
That's
They didn't
fantastic.
have no college degrees or anything like that, but you're giving them opportunity. You're setting themselves up, meaning making sure that you're fitting their profile of what they can be successful in.
So I mean,
They're
it seems when I think about what it takes to have a successful business, right? It's have a plan to get some growth in the business, which you've got. You've outlined that. Have a passion for what you're doing. You clearly have that. Make sure you understand how to attract and retain great people to help sustain and grow the business. You got that. But I wonder, sort of, as you look down the line and you think about what the future of the business is, I think there's people out there that might think about, hey, commercial grade castings, are there challenges there when you think about, Mexico or overseas, or, is there an industry here that allows you to be successful over the long term? How do you think about that, Chris? How do you think about the viability of, Castrite over the long term, both for you and for the team that you're building there?
Well, first off, concerning manufacturing and the concerns with Mexico and China and India and stuff like that. I've had customers that have left because they're like, oh yeah, we're going to China because they're half the price and stuff, only to have them come back a year later, knocking on the door. Hey, you think you can do those again? Well, what happened? Well, we're not getting our product, or it's junk. Made in America, you're right here, you're servicing local customers, or customers where you're talking with them, you're working with them. That's it's small businesses, whether it's foundry or other things. That's what America's all about. And I don't I don't foresee that small manufacturing going away. I think I think there may be combining, maybe so they were maybe the smaller companies that are only doing $500,000 or something like that, getting into other companies to growing to be now the minimum is 5 million, or it used to be only half a million and stuff. But so as far as cast rate goes, and its viability, I tell you, we have a strong. I'm very proud of my group. We have a very strong team. I remind them every week of that, and I have no concerns over this company at all with these guys.
Well, Chris, you're doing all the right things. You're learning. You're sharing that with the team. You're helping them grow and develop. Like I said, you got the passion. It's really, really terrific, and I super appreciate you
Thanks.
coming on and sharing your story and the background of Castrite. And man, we wish you all the best.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you for having me. One thing that I was told you were going to ask me was, what is your favorite book?
Oh, I hadn't got to that yet. Oh, I'm coming.
Oh, okay.
I got
sorry.
a few questions for you. I got a few wrap-up questions for you. Don't you worry.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was
Okay.
going to ask you, and I was going to ask you right now. Speaking of the learning and the passion, do you have a favorite business book?
Okay. So, favorite book was it was written by Stephen Covey, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. he came out with that in like 88, 89 or something. And I just got out of the military at that time and came back home. And my dad gave me that book. And he said, listen, you read this thing inside. This guy is talking really good stuff. That one there set the tone for my growth of what I needed to, the path I needed to do. To stuff. So
it sounds like it had a really big impact on you. It's a great book. If anyone's listening and hasn't picked it up, it's a good one. So I appreciate that. And then I will close out with a couple last things, which is, Chris, what's something that you learned early in your career or early in your life that you think's helped propel you to all the success that you've had?
That I learned early is networking and relationships, because no one person knows it all ever. I mean, my perspective is, and everyone has something to offer. Everyone you talk to, just a little tidbit of something, and building relationships that later on, I mean, I've had it happen to me numerous times of people that I may have met 10, 15 years ago. Then all of a sudden I meet some other guy and he says, yeah, I heard about you from John, John, oh yeah, I met him like 10 years ago. And here the guy, he remembered that I like to do a certain thing. So during my professional career path, that was one thing that I always did, networking and building relationships from people. And I've really met a lot of wonderful people that have provided for my growth.
Yeah. It's that old saying, right? It's not what you know, it's who you know, and you never know who the right who's are. So be out there networking.
That's right. You never know.
So one other question for you before we wrap is, what's something that you learned later in your life or later in your career that if you went back and told young Chris this lesson and he listened to you, it'd be really positive for him? What's something that you'd say about that?
Well, yeah, it'd be really positive for him. Well, young Chris was, he was a bit of a challenging, I just want to do it. I just want to do it. I want to do it all. And it was that way. The only problem was that, I wasn't prioritizing things. I, would have a dozen things going on up in the air, not focusing. Hey, listen, you just need to have these 4 up in the air. Forget about these 3 right now, I'd like to have it all. Well, I've kind of grown and matured to realize, you can't do it all. Stop working 80 hours a week, so prioritizing. That's it.
Putting some priorities in place, focusing your energy to get something fully done rather than a million things a little bit done. Yeah, yes. I feel that. Well, Chris, man, it's been awesome. Thank you so much for sharing some of your lessons, your background, and your story. Thank you for your service to our country. We wish you all the best, my man.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ari. I appreciate it. Appreciate meeting with you.
Made in America with Ari Santiago is brought to you by Compass MSP.